I suppose your father had no head for business and made a mess of it.
Oh, that just shows how entirely you are mistaken of him. When the company was made bankrupt, it nearly broke my father's heart because he had persuaded several of his friends to put money into the business. He was sure it would succeed, and events proved he was quite right, but I don't know what we should have done but for Mr. Mangan.
What? Boss Mangan came to the rescue again after all his money had been thrown away.
He did indeed, and never uttered a reproach to my father. He bought what was left of the company, started a new business, and made my father a manager in it to save us from starvation.
Quite the romance. So when did the boss develop the tender passion?
Oh, that was years after. Quite lately. He took the chair one night at a sort of people's concert. I was singing there, as an amateur, you know, half a guinea for expenses with 3 songs and 3 encores. He was so pleased with my singing that he asked, might he walk home with me? I'll never forget the look on his face when I brought him home and introduced him to my father, his own manager. And it was then, of course, that my father told me how nobly he had behaved, and it was considered a great chance for me because he is so rich, and I guess we had an understanding, and...
Oh, well, you may have had that understanding, my darling, to get into the engagement, but you all bounced right out of it. I had anything to do with it.
Oh, no, it's no use, Hermione. I am bound in honour and gratitude. I will go through with it.
You know, of course, it is neither honourable nor grateful to marry a man you don't love. Do you love this Mangan man?
Yes. At least I
don't want to know at least. I want to know the worst. Girls your age are always falling in love with impossible people, especially old people.
I like Mr. Mangan very much, and I shall always be
grateful to him for his kindness to my dear father, yes. You're sure there's no one else?
What do you mean?
You're sure you're not in love with an actor?
What? No, of course not.
Well, why else would you be reading Othello?
My father taught me to love Shakespeare.
Oh, your father, he seems to be about the limit.
You never read Shakespeare, Hermione? That seems so extraordinary to me. I like Othello.
Oh, indeed. He was very jealous, wasn't he?
Oh, no, not that part. I think all the part about jealousy is horrible. But don't you think it must have been a wonderful experience for Desdemona? Brought up so quietly at home, only to meet a man who had been out in the world doing all sorts of brave things and having terrible adventures, and yet finding something in her that made him love to sit and talk with her and tell her about them.
Darling, did it ever occur to you some of those stories Othello told Desdemona couldn't possibly have happened?
Oh no, Shakespeare thought they could have happened.
Desdemona thought they could have happened, but they didn't.
What do you look so enigmatic for? You are such a sphinx. I never know what you mean.
Desdemona would have found him out if she had lived. I wonder if that's why he strangled her.
I thought I was not telling lies.
How do you know?
As Shakespeare would have said if he was. Hermione, there are men who have done wonderful things. Men like Othello.
Tell me all about him. I knew there must be somebody else who had never been so miserable about Mangan. You just wanted quite a lot to marry him.
Oh, Hermione, you are dreadful. But I don't want to make a secret of it. No, of course I don't tell anyone. Besides, I don't even know him.
You don't know him? What do you mean?
Well, I know him to speak to.
Don't you want to know him much more intimately?
Oh no, I know him quite almost intimately.
You don't know him, but you know him almost intimately. That's lucid.
I mean, he does not call on us. I met him, by chance, at a concert.
You seem to have rather a gay time at your concerts, Ellie.
Not at all. We talked to everyone in the green room waiting for our turns. I thought he was one of the artists. He looked so splendid. But he was only one of the committee. I happened to tell him I was copying a picture at the National Gallery. I make a little money that way, and it happened that he came to the National Gallery
on Students' Day. Paid 6pence to stumble about through a crowd of easels when he might have come in the next day, paid nothing, and found the floor clear, quite by accident.
No, on purpose! He liked talking to me. He knows lots of the most splendid people, fashionable women who are all in love with him, but he ran away from them to see me and persuade me to go with him for a drive round Richmond Park in a taxi.
having going it, Pettykins. Marvellous what you good girls can get up to when no one says a word.
I'm not in society, Hassani. If I didn't make acquaintances in that way, I shouldn't have any at all.
Well, there's no harm if you know how to take care of yourself. Now, may I ask his name?
Marcus Darnley.
Marcus Darnley, what a splendid name.
Oh, I'm glad you think so. I think so too. But I thought it was just a silly fancy of my own. You know, he was found in an antique chest.
In a what?
An antique chest. One summer morning in a rose garden after the night of the most terrible thunderstorms.
What was he doing in an antique chest?
He was a baby. The name Marcus Darnley was embroidered on his little baby clothes and £500 in gold.
Ellie.
The garden of a viscount.
De Rougemont?
No, de la Jacquelin. A French family. A vicomte. His life has been one long romance. A tiger?
Slain by his own hand.
Oh, nothing vulgar like that, no. He saved the life of a tiger from a hunting party. One of King Edward's hunting parties in India. The king was so furious. That's why he's never had his military services properly recognised. But he doesn't care. He is a socialist and despises rank.
Ellie, how can you sit there and tell me such lies? You of all people. I thought you were a good, straightforward girl.
What do you mean? To say you don't believe me?
Of course I don't believe you. You're inventing every word of it. You take me for a fool.
Goodbye, Hassani. I see now that it sounds very improbable as I tell it, but I can't stay if you think of me that way.
Wait, you shan't go. I can't be mistaken. I know too well what liars are like. Someone really has told you all of this? You tell me everything about him. Are you in love with him?
Oh, no, I'm not so foolish. I don't fall in love with people. I'm not as silly as you think.
I see. It's just something to think about that gives a bit of interest and pleasure to life.
Just so, that's all, really.
How wonderful it makes waking up in the morning. Makes the hours go fast, doesn't it? All life is transfigured. You want nothing more than to be alone and think about him.
Hassani, you are a witch. How did you know? You're the most sympathetic woman in the world.
Darling, how I envy you. And how I pity you.
Pity me? Oh, why? Hassani, this is Mr. Marcus Darnley.
What a lark! This is my husband. Steady there, Betty.
My real name, Miss Dunn, is Hector Hushby. I leave you to judge whether that's a name any sensitive man would care to confess to. I never use it when I can possibly help it. I've been away for nearly a month, and I had no idea you were coming here, or that you knew my wife. I am, nevertheless, delighted to find you in our little house.
Oh, I don't can't bear it. Please, Red, speak to Papa.
Be off, Hector! Get out now!
Well, if you think it better.
It's all right, my darling, he's gone. There's no one here but me. Let yourself go and have a good cry.
Damn!
Oh, thank God for that. I thought you were going to be broken-hearted. Never mind me, damn him again.
Oh, I'm not damning him. I'm damning myself for being such a fool. Oh, how can I let myself be taken in so?
Oh, no, darling. Very few young women can resist Hector. I know I couldn't when I was your age. He really is rather splendid, isn't he?
Splendid, splendid looking, of course, but how could you love a liar?
I don't know, but you can. Fortunately, or there wouldn't be a lot of love in the world.
But to lie like that, to be a boaster, a coward!
Oh, none of that, if you please, Pettykins. If you hint the slightest doubt of Hector's courage, he will go off and do something horribly dangerous just to prove he is not a coward.
Do you mean that he is really brave and really has had adventures and yet tells lies about things that he never did and never happened?
Yes. Darling, people don't come with their virtues and vices in sets. They've got them anyhow, they're all mixed.
Oh, there is something odd about this house, Hussaini, and even about you. I don't know why I'm talking to you so calmly. I have a horrible fear that my heart is breaking, but that heartbreak isn't what I thought it must be.
It's just life educating you, my pettykins. How do you feel about Boss Mangan now?
God, how can you remind me of him, Hussaini?
Look, Peter's coming back. You don't mind now?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm quite cured.
Ellie dear, Mr. Hushabye has just been telling them most extraordinary...
Yes, I've heard it.
Suppose I go straight to Mrs. Hushabye and tell her you're in love with her husband.
She knows it.
You told her?
She told me.
Oh, this is a crazy house, or else I'm going clean off my chum. Is she making a swap with you? She to have your husband and you to have hers?
Well, you don't want us both, do you?
Oh, my brain won't stand it. My head's going to split. Oh, help me. Oh, help me to hold it. Oh, help me quick, squeeze it. Oh, save me. Oh, thank you. That's very refreshing. Don't you hypnotise me, though. I've seen men made fools of by hypnotism.
Be quiet. I've seen men made fools of without hypnotism.
You don't dislike touching me, I hope. You never touched me before, I noticed.
Hush! You are to go to sleep. Do you hear? You are to go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Be quiet, deeply quiet. Sleep, 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 sleep. Sleep.
Give me a kiss and say you forgive me.
Oh, don't slop and gush and be sentimental. Don't you see? Unless I can be hard as nails, I should go mad. I don't care a damn about you calling me names. What, you think a woman in my situation can feel a few hard words?
Poor little woman. Poor little situation.
I suppose you think you're being sympathetic, but you're just as cruel and stupid and selfish. You see me getting a smasher right in the face that kills a whole part of my life. The best part that I shall never have again. And you think you can help me over it by a little coaxing and kissing when I want all the strength I can get. Something iron, something stony to lean on. I don't care how cruel it is. You go all mushy and want to slobber over me. I'm not angry. I'm not unfriendly. But for God's sake, pull yourself together. You dread it almost as I used to dread my dreams. And having to fight and do things. But that's all over for me. My dreams are dashed to pieces. I should like to marry a very old, very rich man. I should like to marry you. I'd much rather marry you than marry Mangan. Are you very rich?
No, living from hand to mouth. And I have a wife somewhere.
What are you waiting here for now? Waiting for somebody to show some signs of knowing that I have been invited here.
Oh, you're invited. Has nobody come? Oh, dear.
I dreamt that a wild-looking old gentleman came. He looked in at the window. I heard him calling out, "Nurse, there's a young, attractive female waiting. Go and see what she wants." Are you the nurse?
Yes, miss, I'm Nurse Guinness. That was old Captain Shopper, Mrs. Hushabye's father. I heard him roaring, but thought it was for something else. I suppose it was Mrs. Hushabye who invited you, miss.
I understood her to do so, but really, I think I'd better go.
Oh, no, think such a thing, miss. If Mrs. Hushabye's forgotten all about it, it'll be a pleasant surprise for her to see you, won't it?
It has been a very unpleasant surprise for me to find that nobody expects me.
Oh, you'll get used to it, miss.
What's a young lady? Oh, another lady. I'll fetch another cup.
Papa, don't you know me? I am your daughter.
Nonsense, my daughter's upstairs, asleep.
Oh, don't be so distressed. nicest cup of tea. He's very old and very strange. He has been just like that to me.
Poor Ellie, I know you were pulling the devil by the tail.
Oh, no, not like that. It was at least dignified.
Well, that would make it all the more difficult. I shouldn't pull the devil by the tail with dignity. I should just pull hard. Anyway, go on.
At last it seemed that all our troubles were at an end. Mr. Mangan did an extraordinary noble thing out of pure friendship for my father. He asked him how much capital he wanted, and he gave it to him. He simply made him a present of it.
On condition you married him.
Oh, no, this was when I was a child. He hadn't even seen me. It was absolutely disinterested, pure generosity.
Well, I beg the gentleman's pardon. So what became of all the money?
We all got new clothes, and we moved into another house, and I went to another school for 2 years.
Only 2 years.
That was all. For at the end of 2 years, my father was utterly ruined.
How?
I don't know. I never could understand it, but it was dreadful. When we were poor, my father had never been in debt, but when we launched the business out into large scale, he had to incur liabilities, and the business went into liquidation.
Bit off a bit more than he could chew.
Oh, I think you're being a little unfeeling about